This conference will now be recorded.
Hello everyone, good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, I'm sharing my screen. I hope my screen share is visible for all of you.
Yes.
Yeah, good. So, uh, so we'll start with chapter one today, where we'll discuss about the performance testings, the basics around it. So, I'll give a quick introduction to software testing, and we'll come to the word performance testing to understand it a little better. So, what I'll do is I'll start writing some notes on a rough document, and I'll ensure that I'll share the notes as well with the confirmed participants via Google Drive. Okay. So, so we'll talk about software testing. Yeah. So, if you look at software testing, there are two objectives for the subject software testing: the primary objective and the secondary objective. Now, the primary objective is to ensure that all the client given requirements are converted to executable functionality in the software. And the secondary objective of software testing is to find the possible bugs in the application. These are the two objectives with which any test engineer in the world will do software testing, right? Now, when it comes to the categories or types of software testing, we heard a lot of things, right? So, if I have to talk about few things, we heard about something called manual testing, and then we heard of automation testing. This is one thing that we classify software testing. Then we also heard that software testing can be either positive testing or negative testing. I mean, we do these things, right? Positive testing we do, negative testing we do. Then we have something called functional testing and non-functional testing, right? Then we have something called black box testing and white box testing. So, so if I have to talk about performance testing subject, right? So let me change this software testing to performance testing now. If I talk about performance testing, I would like to answer whether performance testing comes under manual or automation testing. Performance testing comes under positive or negative. What is the answer? Performance testing comes under functional or non-functional. What is the answer? And performance testing comes under black box or white box. What is the answer? This is what we are going to comment right now. Okay. Now we know that in manual testing, most of the entire efforts of a test engineer is completely manual. He or she would read the test case, they would execute the test case and the associated test steps on the application one by one. Thus, it is a laborious process, time consuming process for a manual test engineer to do manual testing. Automation testing, on the other hand, is a shortcut that we have where instead of you having to execute the steps manually, we do it using any shortcut or any technique. We might even use a tool as well to expedite the process of automation testing, right? See, if I have to give a simplest meaning of automation testing, let's say I have to write the word automation testing one more time. So I have to type it on my keypad. Again, I have to write it. Maybe my teacher told me that you do not know the spelling, so you have to write it 5 times. So you see, I'm typing it manually, the word automation testing. So when I'm typing it manually, it is a laborious process, painful process to me. And that process of typing the word ABCD or Kiran or automation testing, it is nothing but manual testing. Did I deploy or use any technique to write it 5 times? I did not use any shortcut to write it 5 times, but now I'm going to use it. How? Copy the word, which we know, copy or control C. Now I'll do control V. That's a shortcut for me to replace the word automation testing or to paste it. So control C, control V is an example of automation, right? So automation testing does not mean you have to use a Selenium. Automation testing does not mean you have to use JMeter. Automation testing does not mean you have to use Quick Test Professional. Automation testing means, do you have a shortcut? Do you have any plugin with you, or do you have any technique with you using which you are able to solve a problem much faster than doing it very slowly using manual approach? Okay, that's the simplest difference between automation and manual testing. But now coming to the question, should we classify performance testing under manual or automation? Well, the industry says performance testing is always automation testing. It is not automation testing. Sorry, it is not manual testing. Why? Why is it so? Let me also give an answer. See, in performance testing, I mean, I did not give the definition, but most of you are already aware of the definition. In performance testing, we bombard the server with thousands of virtual users, or hundreds of virtual users, or at least 10 virtual users. You hit the server again and again with the same request multiple times. So to do that process again and again, obviously you don't have so much of energy, so much of luxury, so much of budget in the organization to recruit 100 users and tell them, okay, on the 1 2 3 you have to hit login button, or on 1 2 3 you have to click on change password button. It's not possible to recruit so many people, right? Because budget plays a role. And let's say we are a company maybe sponsored by Elon Musk and we have so much of budget, but still there is so much of users requirement, and we have to do a lot of functional testing again and again, again and again. So it's a manual process. There are possibilities that the users might make mistakes in doing the repeated actions again and again. Like when I'm copying and pasting automation testing word, there is no way that it is getting pasted incorrectly, right? So when I copy this, control C and control V, the spelling is obviously correct. It will never be printed incorrectly because I copied and pasted, because that is the power of automation testing. But when I'm typing it manually again, there are possibilities that I might make a mistake. Like in automation, I forgot the word I because it's a manual way of typing it. So there are possibilities that in manual testing, the test engineer might make mistakes because it is a repeated activity and they get bored of it. But in automation testing, it is less error prone. Hence, the world of performance testing says that you have to automate this activity. So question number one, is performance testing manual or automation? The answer is automation testing. Okay. I hope I'm clear on this point. Next, the question is, should I classify performance testing under positive testing or under negative testing? Okay, we'll try to answer it, but first let's define what is positive testing. So positive testing is a testing where, let's say Kiran does it with an intention to prove that the application will work. Whereas negative testing is a technique where the test engineer will do it with an intention to prove that it will not fail, right? So here my mindset is positive to show to the developer that the application is working. Whereas in negative testing, my mindset is little negative, little pessimistic to prove to the developer that the application will fail. Now, whenever you get a build from the developer for the very first time or second time, third time, 10th time, our approach and mindset is always negative testing, because initially our focus is to find as many bugs as possible. So unless your mindset is not negative, you cannot find bugs. So 80% of the software testing lifecycle will have negative testing being conducted. You write negative test cases also, right? And let's say we are approaching towards the end of the project lifecycle, and the project manager comes and the developers comes, and slowly the client also comes and says, hey Kiran, can you please show me how the application is looking now? Now at this point of time, when the client comes or when the project manager comes, my attitude cannot be negative, my mindset should be positive, because I have to prove to the project manager that the application is now working. positively and it is working, meaning I'll tell the project manager that, hey, you see the login worked. Hey, you see I'm able to create a new user account. You see I'm able to change the password. You see I'm able to transfer the funds from this account to another account. You see I'm able to withdraw the funds. You see I'm able to cancel my previous transfer. You see I'm able to log out. You see I'm able to deactivate my account. So your mindset is positive towards the end of the software testing lifecycle. Whenever demos are scheduled with project managers or with important project stakeholders such as client team. So 20% of the software testing lifecycle will have positive testing, and 80% of that software testing lifecycle will have negative testing. Negative testing is conducted to find all the possible bugs so that the developer can fix and develop a strong product. And we do positive testing to give confidence to the customer that our product is very well built and you have to please buy it and give us the budget release. So this is the difference between positive testing and negative testing. Now the question is, should I do performance testing as positive or as negative? The answer is performance testing is always conducted as positive testing. Performance testing is never conducted as negative testing. Now let me give a reason also so that you understand why performance testing is positive testing. Simple. Now in a real world scenario, let's say I talk about Amazon.in and we are all here to do performance testing for Amazon. Okay. So the test case steps that we wanted to do for performance testing for Amazon is, so the step one is launch the website, which is Amazon.in, then login, then click on a product. Fourth is click on add to cart. Fifth is make a payment. Sixth is log out. So this is the test case for which we have to do performance testing, and the requirement is do it for virtual users 100, meaning as if 100 users are coming to this website and buying a product and making a payment and logging out. So we will use JMeter tool in the future to do this scenario, but let's talk little theoretically. When I talk about 100 users, I'll probably talk about these users as well. Let's say Suchitra is one of the users. Nair is also one of the users. Manoj is another user. Like this, I have like 7 users here. Now imagine what you would do if you were a real user. All of you professionally or software testers. For time being, forget that you are test engineers. You are a real user in the world and you have to buy a product. Okay, you are not testing it. Okay, just assume that on this Amazon.in there is a fantastic deal happening where you get 80% discount and you don't want to leave it, you wanted to buy it. So what would Suchitra do? So Suchitra would go and type Amazon.in. So she'll type Amazon.in on her favorite browser. Then she will log into Amazon.in. She will log in with her email address. So she will type something like abcd at the rate. Okay, let's be realistic. So she'll type something like Suchitra at the rate gmail.com. Let's say that is her email address. And there is also a password. Let's call it as welcome123 is the password. So she typed her valid username, she typed her valid password, and she logged in. Then she wanted to click on a product. Let's say she wanted to buy, some dress. So she'll click on the dress and she'll click on add to cart. Now clicking on add to cart has nothing called a negative test case. It is always like clicking on a button. So she'll click on the button, and to make a payment, maybe her credit card details are already saved on Amazon. Otherwise she'll make a UPI payment. So she'll make the payment and then she will also log out successfully, right? Similarly, I will ask the remaining users, let's say Dilip. So Dilip also does the same thing. So Dilip also will type his username here. Let's say Dilip at the rate yahoo.co.in. And he will also type his password. Let's say welcome123. And he wanted to buy, let's say maybe a perfume. And he will do the same process. Similarly, when I talk about the remaining 8 users also, you will also do the same thing. In this process, as a real user, did Dilip typed any invalid URL? No. Did Dilip tried any invalid credentials? Definitely no, because his intention is still login. Is he clicking on a product that does not exist on Amazon? Never. He or she will click on a product that exists. And will they click on add to cart, or will they click on some other button? They wanted to buy it, so they will definitely do add to cart, and they'll click on make a payment. And in the make a payment, they will always enter the valid details of their credit card or debit card or UPI payments, and they will log out. So if you see, in all these six steps of a real user, the workflow they followed is having positive business transaction or workflow. Did Dilip or Suchitra made a mistake while doing these six steps? No, they just followed the flow by entering valid credentials, by clicking on the right buttons, by entering valid data. So from launching until logout, what did they do? Negative testing or positive testing? Of course, they are not testers, but let's say, we have to comment as a tester to the real user. I will say that they did positive testing only, because they logged in, they purchased what they want, they logged out. That's it. And then they get back to their actual work. Their actual work could be, running their store, or running an entrepreneur business, or doing a training like this. They're not testers. They did their work in Amazon, they left Amazon, now they went to some other work. So what they did? Positive testing. Which means when real 100 users also log into Amazon to buy, they're all doing positive flows only, meaning positive testing. But when 100 users are logging into Amazon, our definition is performance testing is being conducted indirectly, or load testing is being conducted indirectly. But real user says, no, I'm not doing testing. Yes, real users are coming to the website, they are doing their transaction, and they're logging off, and they're getting back to their college or whatever they do. But Kiran, as a tester, is saying that indirectly these real users are doing positive workflows, meaning positive testing is what they are doing. Hence, I say that performance testing is always positive testing. No user in the world will try to log in to Amazon with an invalid password to test Amazon functionality. They might by mistake enter an invalid password or a username, but not intentionally they will do it, because no user in the world has got a time and patience and energy to test Amazon.in, because you're not getting paid for it. In fact, real users don't even know the test cases or the testing topic. Okay, so performance testing is a positive testing and not a negative testing. Am I clear, guys, until this point? Clear? Yes, no? Please unmute and do comment.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Then we'll talk about, should I say performance testing is functional testing or non-functional testing? Again, to answer that, first we need to know the definition of functional and non-functional testing. So in functional testing, the test engineers, what do you call, the focus will be on testing the functional aspects of the application. When I say functional aspects, I mean the requirements. Something like, when I give certain inputs, what is the output I'm getting? That is all about functional testing, right? Something like 2 plus 2 equals to 4, that is a functional testing, right? So giving inputs and validating the output is simply called as functional testing. When it comes to non-functional testing, the definition is, I'm not focusing on giving inputs and validating the output, because that is already carried out in functional testing. So in non-functional testing, we focus on other attributes other than functional characteristics. Like, what are those non-functional characteristics? Like, I can talk about the reliability of the software. See, when I talk about any application that I am purchasing, right? The customer says, okay, is it reliable? And is it secured? Meaning, have you conducted enough security testing that I can do transactions on this application so that my money is safe? It goes to the person to whom I have transferred. Then, is it compatible Meaning, will it work on my Android? Will it work on my iPod or iPad or iPhone? Will it work on my smart television? Will it work on my smartwatch? Will it work on this browser? Will it work on that operating system? Right? Usability, which means like, is this software usable by people who cannot read? Meaning, a person who does not know how to read because they are not literates, but can they still use the application? Probably yes. I mean, there are different ways, right? For that, you have the localization concept, internationalization concept, right? Maybe I don't speak English, so I don't understand English, so I still wanted to use WhatsApp. Then I'll ask WhatsApp, hey, is that application usable? Then they say yes, we have localization, meaning WhatsApp can be used in my native language. Let's say Telugu, I can use it, I can read the application in Telugu, I can send a message in Telugu or in Hindi or in Malayalam, Tamil, whatever language you want. So they're all non-functional characteristics. For a product to succeed in life, for a product to make the maximum revenue and reach out to all the customers, non-functional testing is more important than functional testing. I'm not saying that without functional testing we do non-functional. After functional testing is completed, then we do non-functional testing. And if non-functional testing is not conducted, you may not reach 80% of the customers in the world. If you do functional testing, you reach only 20% of the customers in the world. So more business to your product will be there only if you do non-functional testing. Okay. So, and of course, performance testing, load testing, stress testing, endurance testing, soak testing, etc. They all come under non-functional testing. So the question again is, do we classify performance under functional or non-functional? The answer is non-functional testing. Performance testing, load testing, stress testing, soak, endurance testing, they all come under non-functional testing, which means if your product does not go through performance testing and subcategories of performance testing, your company business may not make 80% of the revenues in the world. Right? If you look at all the e-commerce applications that we have today, or if you look at all the smartphone apps that you have installed on your phone, to name few, I think most of us have got these apps, right? You'll definitely have an Amazon app, maybe Flipkart app, maybe Google Pay app, Phone Pay app. When it comes to taxis, you have Ola, Uber, maybe Rapido, or something else. And if you are planning any, vacations, you have Airbnb app or Make My Trip app. And if you are booking any movie tickets, maybe Book My Show app is there. And if you wanted to order food, you have Zomato, Swiggy, etc. So many other apps are there. I'm writing few. These are the common apps that most of us have got on the smartphones. All these apps have gone through non-functional testing, otherwise they would not have been so popular that I have this on my phone and you also have it on the smartphone. Okay. So if Airbnb does not, I mean, has not gone through non-functional testing, it would not have been a hit even in Indian market. It could have been a hit in US market, but may not be in Indian market because the population of India is so huge that so many people started using it. Which means localization is important because there could be a landlord somewhere in Kerala or somewhere in Goa who does not speak English, but they speak the local language. So their question is, I have like multiple villas here to rent out for the people who visit Goa on vacation. So he wanted to use the Airbnb app in a local language. So Airbnb says, yes, you can customize my app to display the functionality in your local language, which could be some language. I don't know. I think it's Konkani language they use. Some other words, let's say Hindi. So if you're able to use the app in that language, yes, a landlord will come and say, yes, I'll use Airbnb because I can communicate with customers in this language. Meaning the app will take care of converting Hindi to English and etc. etc. So all these applications have gone through regular functional testing, which brought them 20 to 30% of the revenue that they wanted. But the remaining 70 to 80% of the revenue will come from the world only if they have gone through the non-functional testing. That is the importance of non-functional testing in the software testing space. Again, if I talk about salaries of testing folks, people who are doing functional testing, they make very less salaries as compared to people who do non-functional testing, right? My experience in India says that if you are a functional tester with 10 years experience, your salary could be something like 10 lakhs per annum. But if you are a same 10 years guy with a non-functional testing, your salary could be somewhere around maybe 25 lakhs per annum. I mean Indian rupees I'm talking about. You see the difference, same 10 years experience guy, but there is a difference of 15 lakhs per annum Indian rupees between functional tester and non-functional tester. The reason is there is a scarcity of people under non-functional testing. Every test engineer or every engineer who completes their graduation and started taking a course, they always go for a functional testing course, or an automation testing course is also good, but if they focus on non-functional testing, their career will be much better, because that is what the job market is looking at. Because 80% of the revenue is coming from non-functional testing, which means company says we hire more of non-functional testers than of functional testers. I can bring in a regular engineer who passed out of a college and put them in functional testing, but I cannot keep them directly in non-functional testing, because for non-functional testing engineer, the basic prerequisite is you have to be a functional test engineer first, because then only you'll understand these testing techniques. Okay. Well, so the answer is performance testing. Does it come under functional or non-functional? The answer is non-functional. And then we have black box testing and white box testing. Now, black box testing comes under, black box testing is a testing where you don't have to be aware of the code. You don't have to be aware of the programming language used by the developer. You don't have to be a programmer essentially. You can be with a blank mind and test the application directly by executing the test steps or test cases. Whereas a white box tester, or in white box testing, your intention is to test the code. You don't test the application, you test the code, which means you need to have knowledge on the language used by the developer. You need to have access to the code. Whereas in performance testing, you don't need access to the code. So if I have to classify performance testing under one of these two things, my answer would be it is obviously going to come under black box testing. It won't be coming under white box testing, because the developer will never share you code and tell you, okay, now you do performance testing. He will give you the application and he will say, okay, this is the application from outer shell, and you do performance testing. Okay. So to conclude, performance testing is an automation testing, and it is a positive testing. It comes under non-functional testing, and it is a BBT, black box testing. These are simple interview questions that people ask, when you say that you are a performance tester. And these are the reasons why the answers are also selected like this. Now, do you guys have any questions in understanding this concept until this point? Please unmute and let me know. Don't be on silent. You have the facility to unmute and comment. Is it clear? Do you have any question to ask?
It's clear.
Okay. And others? I'm seeing only one response.
Sir, hi sir.
Yes.
Sir, black box testing or white box testing is nothing but baseline or benchmark testing, sir. That is a difference, sir.
See, black box testing means, okay, let me give an example. So I'll take the same Amazon.in, and let's say you have to do this testing where you have to launch the website. Then you have to click on login. So you'll click on this sign in button. Then you have to enter a username and password. So you will enter some username and you'll click on some password and you'll click on login button. Let's say you logged in. After you are logged in, you have to click on a product. So let's say I wanted to click on some product. So this is the product I wanted to buy. Then I said you need to add to cart. So I'm clicking on add to cart. and you see it is added to cart, and then I have to make a payment, which means I have to click on this proceed to buy one item. It will ask me to log in. Assume that I'm logged in and I made the payment. Then it says logout. So I'll click on logout button and the what do you call, and I'm logged out. So to do this activity, to do these steps, now let us question ourselves. Do I need access to code written by developer? So what is the answer? To do the above six steps, do you need access to the code written by the developer for this project? Anyone can answer it. To do the above steps, do you definitely
No,
need access to the code, or without access to the code also you can do it?
no,
No need
without
of
access
that.
to code also.
No need, right? Very good. So the answer is no. Next thing, let us say the developer says he used Python and Java as the programming language to develop this Amazon.in. The next question is, do I need to learn Python and Java to test the above test case? What is the answer?
No,
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 sir, no.
no, right? So whenever the answer for these two questions is no, you are doing black box testing. Okay, so black box testing is nothing but supplying an input and validating the output. Like, what is the input you gave in step one? Amazon.in. So I'll type here Amazon.in. Am I typing this? Yes, meaning it is input. Now when I press enter, what will you check? Whether the website loaded or not. Yes, the website loaded. Is it Amazon website or google.com website or Flipkart website? It is Amazon only because I see Amazon logo. So I entered this input and I validated the output. So this worked. Then I have to click on login button. So when you click on this login button, that is the input. You are clicking on login, that is input. And now you are entering the output is the login page. Then you'll enter the username, password, click on login, that is the input, and you are getting logged in. So for all these steps, what are we doing? We are entering inputs and validating outputs, right? So let us ask this question. Am I entering inputs and validating the outputs? So what is the answer for this question for the above six steps? So are you entering some inputs like username, password, clicking on a perfume, entering credit card details, and you are validating the outputs? Are you doing this? Yes or no? Simple question. Are you entering inputs or not?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
And are you validating the outputs? The answer is yes. So this answer is yes. So for these three questions, if the answers are like no, no, yes, you are doing black box testing. Because the definition of black box testing is validating the application functionality. How do you validate it? By entering inputs and validating outputs. That is the definition of black box testing. So performance testing is also black box testing, because there also in performance testing you will enter inputs and will validate the outputs. Usually white box testing is conducted by developers, not by test engineers. So when you talk about software testing, 90% of the testers in the world are black box testers. Only 10% of the testers in the world are white box testers, because white box testers is a very special skill set. Unless you are a developer, you cannot become a white box tester. So there is always very less percentage of people working as white box testers. So if Kiran has to be called as white box tester, first of all, I should be a developer, meaning I should know some programming languages. Maybe I should know .NET, I should know, let's say C, I should know Java, I should know Python, I should know Ruby on Rails, I should know Node.js, I should know AngularJS, I should know React.js, etc., etc. When I know most of the programming languages, then I can become a white box tester. And let's say we talk about the regular testers in the world. 90% of the jobs, they're all black box testers only, because they don't come from programming language backgrounds. They might have done some course somewhere, or they might have taken the Java subject in their engineering days or college days, but they're still black box testers. Okay, I hope your question is answered. Any questions? Okay, so we discussed some basics around introduction to non-functional testing and the web application performance testing. Now the most important topic that we have is this one, client and server architecture. So I'll take Paint application. So this is the client and this is the server. So have you heard of client and server anytime? Okay, I want the participants to speak up. Okay,
Yes.
okay, yeah. Because see, the training, if you're on mute, it is as good as you are buying a recorded video. But this is not a recorded video, right? I'm live on the training, and your job is to acknowledge or ask questions because you are learning things. So who can tell me your understanding about client? Like if I ask this question in the interview, you came for a job, and the question is, okay, tell me, what do you understand by client? What is a client? So who can answer that? It's okay even if you give a wrong answer. Don't worry about the answer. Participation is enough important. So what is a client according to you?
The UI which we are interacting in regular basis. Where
Okay, fantastic. That's correct. And where does that UI render? Where do you see your UI on? On what screen you see it?
at our local machines,
Okay, local machine. But on what software do you see that UI?
on browsers actually. If
Browsers. Fantastic. That is what I'm looking at. So, example of a client is browser. But few of you might not understand the definition of client, so you may not understand why browser is a client. So let me give a definition of client here. See, let us talk from in English regular language also. So client is nothing but someone who is making a request. So he is someone who makes a request, right? So when I go to a shop and ask him, hey, can you give me 2 milk packets? So I am making a request. So Kiran is the client. Okay. Similarly, when I say server, he is someone who receives client request to give a response. The shop owner will say, okay, Kiran, here are the 2 milk packets. So I'm getting a response from the shop owner, right? So the response is 2 milk packets. So the shop owner is called as a server. For every request, there will be a response. For every question, there will be a response. The question or the request will come from client. The answer or the response will come from server. Okay. So one example on the technical front for a client is a browser, because we use browser every day to make requests, right? The request could be anything. Let's say I have to check my Yahoo emails, so I'll go to yahoo.co.in. So typing yahoo.co.in is a request, and where am I typing it? On Chrome browser. So Chrome is a client that is helping me to submit my request. Another request is, after the class I'm free and I wanted to visit a water amusement park like Wonderla. Maybe this is the URL. So I'm typing this, right? So this is a request I'm typing to have some fun and enjoyment with my family. So this is a request I'm typing on my Chrome browser, and this is the response I'm getting from the server, right? So a client helps you to submit a request. And what softwares we use in the world? Most of the times you use browsers. Okay. And in this course, I'm teaching you a client called JMeter. JMeter is a performance testing tool. It is also a client using which you submit lot of requests to the server. Okay. If I'm teaching you Selenium, then Selenium is also a client. If I'm teaching you Postman tool, which is an automation tool for APIs, then Postman is also a client. Okay. So for now, let's restrict it to browser or JMeter. Now, what is a server then? Already we wrote it here. Server is someone who receives the request from the client to give a response. There are so many servers available. So can any of you tell me examples of servers? What servers are you aware of?
Some database server application server.
Okay, database server, correct. Application server, also correct. But can you give very close example of application server? Recollect in your colleges, I mean in your projects, you might have heard from the developers, we are using this server. You hear it very often. Okay, let me write it. Have you heard of Apache Tomcat? Have you heard of Microsoft IIS, Internet Information Services? Have you heard of Nginx server? Have you heard of Glassfish server? IBM WebSphere? These are application servers used by the developers, and the code written by developers are hosted in these servers, and later they will keep it on a hardware server. So the hardware server examples will be like AWS, Microsoft Azure, Google Cloud, Control S. These are hardware servers. The last four are hardware servers. The first five are examples of application servers or web servers, meaning software related servers. These are certain examples. Okay, you need to be aware of even examples, because in performance testing, if you cannot say what is a client, and if you cannot say what is a server, or if you cannot give examples in the interview itself, they will make out that you do not know performance testing. You prepared somewhere on Google, came for the interview. That is what the interviewer will think. So whatever I'm teaching in the first five classes, they are very important for you to tell that yes, I'm a performance tester, I got trained in it. So we have written the client and server. Now, by the way, what am I trying to explain? I'm trying to explain you this concept, client and server architecture. So we know that the job of a client is to submit a request, right? So this client will do, let me submit a request. That is what the client will do. So the job of this client is to submit a request like this, and the job of this server is to give back a response, right? So let us write here. So what does the client do? It will submit a request. And what does the server do? It will give a response, right? Now, example of a request can be anything that you type on the browser, right? Example can be amazon.in. That is a request. I'll copy it and I'll paste it here. So this is one request I have. And have you received the response? Yes, I can see the response here, right? I can see all the products getting displayed. And most of the websites will display the response in which format? HTML format, right? All the websites will talk in HTML format. And sometimes there are examples of request where you get the response in XML, sometimes in JSON format, sometimes in text format also. So let me type one example here. So if I change the example to some other website, plugins.catalan.com. So this is another request I'm typing on the browser, and you see I'm getting a different response and looks like it is an XML file, right? So this is another request I submitted on the browser, and this time the response I got is XML response, right? You see XML response is what we got here. Let me change the example again. I'll type some other example, http bin.org/json. That's another request I'm aware, and I'm typing it on the browser, and you see I'm getting the response. So this is the request, and the response we got from server is a JSON response. So this is in JSON format. Okay? We will talk about the formats later, but this is in JSON format. JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation. Okay? XML is another format, extensible markup language. HTML is a regular format that we have been hearing for the last 25 years, hypertext markup language. So what I'm trying to say is, for every request that you send on the browser, you get a response. Like for every question, there is an answer. So for every request, there is a response. The response can come sometimes in HTML, sometimes in XML, sometimes in JSON, sometimes a PDF file, sometimes a document file, sometimes an Excel file, etc. So let me write the word here. We are talking about client and server architecture. Okay. The next thing that I would like you guys to understand is, in the client and server architecture, after the request is sent, along with the request, the client also sends something called protocol. Now, what is a protocol? Can anyone give me an answer? What is a protocol? Like, what is your understanding of the word protocol in the internet?
Uh, communicate with communicate between client and servers.
Okay, protocol helps in communication between client and server. Very good, correct answer. And can you please give me some examples of protocols?
HTTPS, HTTP,
Okay, HTTP, HTTPS, fantastic, correct.
mm,
And
Ajax, so client.
Ajax, okay. See, in the browser
FTP.
also you see the FTP, correct? FTP is also a protocol. Okay, now you see in the browser, we see the protocol here, HTTPS. And here you see the protocol, HTTPS. And here you see the protocol, HTTPS. So, any communication that we do on the internet, it has to have some protocol. So, examples of protocol is, or if you're talking about the definition of protocol, it helps in communication between client and server, like one of our participants said. Examples of protocols, there are a lot of protocols in the internet. We don't have to learn all of them, but let us write it down. HTTP is a protocol, HTTP is a protocol, FTP is a protocol, SFTP is another protocol. Then we have MQTT, then we have JDBC protocol, then we have GraphQL protocol, then we have SMTP protocol, IMAP or POP3 protocol, LDAP protocol, etc. Like this, the list continues. So many protocols are there in the world, and every protocol has a purpose. Like we use HTTP and HTTPS in the browsers to communicate from client to server and server to client. And nearly 95% of the internet traffic uses these two protocols. Whatever I'm highlighting in red, these protocols are used 95% of the times in the internet, which means the performance testing that we are going to learn will focus 95% of the times on these two protocols only. FTP is also a protocol, which is file transfer protocol. Using this protocol, I can receive a file from FTP server. This is very old protocol. which are used like 25 years before. Now also few companies are using it, but the usage is very less. We will do performance testing even for this protocol FTP. MQTT protocol is used by big data, companies where a lot of data is getting generated. JDBC protocol is used for testing the database connections. We will also use this in performance testing. GraphQL technology is used by Facebook and WhatsApp and Instagram to work with their APIs. We'll also test GraphQL API's performance in this course. SMTP protocol is also there, simple email transfer protocol. We use this protocol for sending emails. IMAP and POP3 protocol is there. We use this protocol for receiving emails. LDAP protocol, we use it in Windows Active Directory for working with active credentials and etc. So many protocols are there, but please remember these two protocols are important for us. So in the client and server architecture, we also have a protocol which is used to help in communication between client and server, and the protocols that are important is HTTP and HTTPS. What is the difference between HTTP and HTTPS? Can anyone take that question?
Sir,
Are they
HTTP,
Hmm.
HTTPS, sir, like secure protocol, sir, like
Mhm.
so HTTP is non-secure, I think.
Correct. What you said is correct. Let me write few points here. So HTTP stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol. And why do we use this protocol? The answer is to transfer data between client and server. Data means file, document, image, audio, video, anything you can transfer from client to server, from server to client. But HTTP protocol is called as an unsecured protocol. Unsecured means no guarantee that the data will be transferred. Meaning client is telling to the server that I am sending you one dairy milk chocolate, and the protocol client is using is HTTP. Now once the server receives the dairy milk chocolate, half of the chocolate is already eaten and only half of the chocolate is left over. So server will think that client sent half chocolate only, but who ate it in between? Maybe some hacker ate it in between. So server is thinking that client gave a half chocolate. Client is thinking that it sent a full chocolate, but in between a hacker ate half of the chocolate. So next time when client tells the server that I sent you a full chocolate, hope you liked it. Server says I received half chocolate, not full. Now client and server are worried. What happened to the remaining half chocolate? The answer is a hacker came and ate it in between. That is why we call HTTP as an unsecured protocol, because you cannot guarantee that whatever you are sending will go as it is to the server, or whatever server is sending to client, you cannot guarantee that the same thing will come to the client. It might come, it might not come. Okay. Now why is it unsecured? Because that's how the protocol has been designed in the 1990s. That is the initial protocol designed in the year 1990s. And in the year 1990s, we never had emails, we never had online payments, we never had emails, we never had communication. The internet in 1990s was like a digital newspaper. People used to come to the website to read the content in a cyber cafe by paying 50 rupees per hour, read the paper and go. Like I experienced that internet in 2000. When India received internet in the year 2000 or 1999, I went to cyber cafe to pay 100 rupees per hour, and I used to visit Bollywood.com to see what movies are coming, the hero pictures, the heroine pictures, the director articles. I used to read it like a digital newspaper because it was you know uh, a fancy thing for all of us, like internet, right? And in those days when I visited this Bollywood.com or any website, there is no like button, there is no subscribe, there is no share, there is no comment, there is no login, there is no logout, there is no make a payment. It is like a paper, you have to read and come, that's it. So for reading, what is the necessity to have security to the protocol? Because you are not transferring anything, you are just typing xyz.com. That's why in the initial days of internet, the protocol HTTP was used. But later, like in the year 2001, 2002, slowly the concept of emails came into picture. That's when people started using, like I'll take my own example because I experienced all those things, right? So I saw this. You all are aware of hotmail.com, right, from Microsoft. But before hotmail.com, we had coolmail.com also. And I had a user account here in coolmail.com. Of course, later Coolmail was devastated, they removed it, so my email address is also gone. But this was the first domain where people started registering their emails, because we used to use this 1 rupee yellow postcard, right, to send a letter to your relatives who are in a village, or this 1 rupee envelope, whatever, 1 rupee or 25 paise, whatever. But suddenly when the concept of emails came into picture, I used cool mail, and my sister was in United States in 2000, and I used to write an email to her saying, hey sister, how are you, blah 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 blah, right? So when emails came into picture, people started logging in, sending some secured information. See, for me it was a regular letter to my sister, but for other people probably they are sending secret messages to maybe mafia, to some dons, or to some other customers, right? So security is important for them. Then the protocol http was not useful. Then the internet came with https, the secured version of http. So what is HTTPS? It also stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol with security. That letter S stands for security. And the definitions are same. It is also used to transfer data between client and server. And it is not an unsecured protocol. It is a secured protocol. That is, 100% guarantee is given that the data will be transferred from client to server and server to client. So HTTP and HTTPS are like same protocols, one without security, one with security. Okay. So today, when you talk about internet, 99% of the applications on the internet today, they use HTTPS. If you are still using HTTP, it's a mistake. Probably the website that they are using is a newspaper kind of thing. That's why they are using HTTP. Otherwise, we have to use HTTPS only. So this is secured and this is unsecured. Am I clear, guys, on the protocol concept? So with this, we did not conclude client and server architecture. We just discussed some 20%. We'll talk about the remaining 80% in tomorrow's class. Okay. This client and server architecture is essential for our performance testing. Okay. So I'll save this diagram somewhere here, and I'll reuse the same diagram in tomorrow's class. I hope the session is good and you have no questions. And guys, can you, uh, if you have not given me your phone numbers, your WhatsApp numbers, not the phone numbers, you can message me on the chat. I will send communication details to you on the next steps. If you have already given, thanks. But if you have not given, can you please give it to me now on the chat? Any
Hello.
questions, by
Hi.
the way? Yes.
Hi. At the end, we are going to do a hands-on on real-time project, or because in some of interview they ask if you are last week I gave an interview, so he asked me how much traffic you are going to check, number of threads. So I say suppose 1,000 or 2,000. Then on are your environment is capable to handle all this SIT environment? All these questions are going to ask there. So what?
Yeah, so that's a valid interview question and a common question in the interviews. And the answer is yes, we are doing practically all these things. That's why if you see in my course content, I wrote the word hands-on exercise. The first 5 classes will be theoretical because the foundations has to be good for us. And from sixth class or seventh class onwards, once we switch to JMeter, I will take a different problem statements. For every problem statement, I will give a solution. Think of each problem statement as a real question in the interview and as a real challenge you get in a real project. So we will solve close to some 40 such problem statements throughout the course. Using the JMeter tool, we will do it practically.
Hi Kiran, how are you going to share the class material?
Okay, so if the question is on the notes, right?
Mm-hmm.
The question is on the notes and the training material will be available via Google Drive. So I will take your email address and I'll give
Mm-hmm.
access to my Google Drive. Then you can download the notes. Okay.
Okay.
So
And
every day you
recordings
have to,
too also. Videos.
yes, coming to the video recordings, it will not be on Google Drive. It will be on YouTube. We will upload the video on the same day. For example, this class is completed now, right? After 3 hours, the
Mm-hmm.
video of today's class will be available on YouTube and we will give access to your email address. It will not be a public YouTube video. It will be a private YouTube video available only for one email address and that to your email address.
Okay.
Okay. And the video recordings and the notes obviously will be shared with all the confirmed participants. And I will also share some other tips and tricks or some other things that I wanted to notify you on the WhatsApp as well. That's why I'm requesting you guys to give me your WhatsApp numbers so that I can communicate whatever details I wanted to communicate with you, like probably an interview question and answer or an article that I read on performance testing and I wanted you guys to read it, or maybe some image I wanted to share with you which talks about performance testing. So that way it would be little live even on the WhatsApp so that I'm communicating with you guys after the class also. Any further questions, guys? And these classes will be Monday to Friday, same timings. It will continue on a daily basis. Tomorrow also we have the class, same timing. Okay, so if you have any questions now you can ask me, guys, else I think we can sign off from today's class. Okay, thank you everyone. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care. Bye bye.